What do you want to be when you grow up? This is a question familiar to all of us. We've heard this before from our parents, friends, teachers, and as children, we knew right away what we wanted to be. Growing up, I never wanted to become an environmentalist. I wanted to be so many things: an artist, a dancer, a scientist, even an astronaut. The possibilities were endless, and by God, my 9-year-old self was gonna come after all of them. I was a dreamer, and the world was big and had all its doors wide open for me. I had my life sort of figured out back then, at least for a 9-year-old. Now here I am in a place that my younger self never thought I would be. An environmental advocate, a climate activist, who knew, right? Times are calling, and just like many, my dreams had to be on hold. Don't get me wrong, the world is still huge, but the possibilities aren't as limitless anymore. After all, how does one fulfill their dreams on a dying planet? The world is in a state of a climate emergency. Intergovernmental reports are saying that global temperatures are at the brink of passing the point of no return. Science is saying this environmental crisis is one that humanity might not be able to survive. This might just be the sixth mass extinction. Climate change is undoubtedly the crisis of our generation, and as a result, young people like me have felt the urgent need to put ourselves out there, to set our dreams aside, because how do we even become what we always wanted to be when we might not even live to see it? For some, the climate crisis might just be a bunch of graphs and data, but in climate impacted and vulnerable communities like ours, all we need to do is look out of our window and see our people lose more than just their homes and livelihoods in a single catastrophe. On New Year's Eve of 2021, neighboring towns and cities in our hometown, Negros Occidental, went underwater. How can we think of a future when our very present is at stake? How do we even welcome a new year, a new day, with the knowledge that it might bring us death and destruction? The year 2018 was the year that I graduated from my degree in psychology. Back in college, I would dabble with filmmaking, photography, and poetry. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be. All I knew was that I wanted to tell stories. I was filled with excitement, thinking that that was finally the year that my dreams would take flight. But life had other plans for me. That very same year, I started becoming active in the grassroots environmental movement. Back then, I didn't know that that would change the direction of my life completely. If everyone remembers, 2018 was also the same year that the school strikes movement initiated by Greta Thunberg started making waves globally. Every day, all we could see on our timelines, the papers, and the screens were news about the climate crisis. We all know this. People were dying, droughts were killing livelihoods, and floods were wiping out entire cities in a single go. The year 2030 was the climate deadline. We either keep the global temperature at 1.5 degrees, or else the impacts on humanity would be irreversible. Naturally, at that point, my friends and I were experiencing climate anxiety. Keep in mind that amidst learning all of this, I had just started my first job as a graphic artist, and the others were still in school, but suddenly it felt like the entire world was collapsing down on us. At that point, we were asking ourselves, do we still have a future to look forward to? It was terrifying, to say the least, but we could not let ourselves get paralyzed by fear and helplessness, or else we knew nothing would change. We knew right then and there that to create lasting change, we had to combat fear with persistent courage and hope. That was the point in our lives where our dreams slowly took a different path. We were not just dreaming for ourselves this time. We decided. We were dreaming for our Earth and together with our people. My friends and I decided to form a coalition called Youth for Climate Hope, a grassroots youth movement powered by our dreams for a better world. My hometown, Negros, is an island of success stories. It is a living, breathing example of hopes taking flight, of monumental victories. Maybe this is why we dare dream bigger. It has not been perfect, but it has won enough fights for us to continue decades after our parents had struggled. There is a saying that history repeats itself, but fortunately, ours is one filled with stories of hope and victory. 23 years ago, our grandparents had fought against the establishment of a coal fired power plant, and they had won. A few years later, in 2002, they fought the same battle and achieved another victory. The coal plant proponents were relentless. From Bago to Silay to Pulupandan and Cadiz, they kept moving from place to place, but the movement was as relentless as they were, if not more. Today, 23 years later, there is no single coal-fired power plant in the island of Negros. And it is all because of the Negrosanans who tirelessly fought for their children's future. But of course, the story does not end there. In 2018, my generation's fight had begun. We had joined the age-old battle against coal. A 300 megawatt coal-fired power plant threatened to enter San Carlos City, one of the greenest and cleanest cities in Negros Occidental. With our 27 renewable energy projects, Negros was dubbed as the renewable energy hub of the Philippines, already generating twice the amount of energy needed to power our island. There was no need for another power plant, mostly one that sourced from coal, one of the deadliest and dirtiest sources of energy, and the number one contributor of carbon emissions that are choking our planet and causing major temperature rise all over the world. On January 1st of 2019, New Year, Youth for Climate Hope had its first ever silent demonstration to publicly register our opposition to the proposed coal-fired power plant. We went out of our family reunions, New Year's celebrations just for an hour or two because we wanted to declare our hopes for a coal-free Negros. We knew that this was not something we can do on our own, and so getting our voices out there was the first step to creating a movement. Raising awareness, making conversations, and creating a vision of a better tomorrow had done its part in shining a light on the urgency of what needed to be done. Hope feeds on hope, and declaring our hopes for our people had encouraged the entire community to come together. The next thing we knew, churches, academic institutions, civil society organizations, people's organizations, youth groups, and advocates, young and old alike, were pulling together their forces of resistance to protect our environment and our people from the destruction of coal. Beyond the protests and demonstrations, the work we had to do included an endless amount of letter writing, meetings, organizing, policy lobbying, and research. The work included getting immersed in our communities, which strengthened our vision and drive to win the fight for justice. On March 6 of 2019, our vision for a coal-free Negros had turned into reality. After months of organizing, campaigning, and a protest attended by 2,000 student strikers in front of the provincial capital, our then governor signed an executive order declaring Negros Occidental coal-free and a source for renewable energy. That was a historic moment of victory for the people of Negros. It's been more than a year since the coal-free declaration, but the fights have not stopped. In fact, they got even bigger. Up until today, destructive projects like quarrying, mining, logging, illegal structures, and construction are plaguing forests and waters of Negros. Coal plants are still being put up and operating in different parts of the Philippines. Global carbon emissions are still on the 4-degree warming track. The year 2030 is still looming in front of all of us. Will the climate movement succeed in keeping the global temperatures at 1.5? Will we even survive long enough to get there? Working on the ground has opened our eyes to so many things. It has shown us that the climate crisis is an issue that cuts across a wider spectrum of social issues. Creating a better, greener world means addressing the very roots of the climate crisis, which we all know is the capitalist exploitation of ecological resources for profit. This is a systemic problem, one that cannot be solved if a few people threw their garbage in the proper bin, or if a small town succeeds in rejecting the establishment of a coal plant. As long as money is passing hands, as long as leaders are being paid to support businesses that pollute the earth, as long as they look at nature as something profitable instead of a home that shelters us, feeds us, and protects us, we will never achieve climate justice. We are in this crisis because of the existing social conditions, and fighting for a better world means continuous, relentless resistance. It means uprooting the systems that allows the exploitation of our earth to continue. But there is hope. As long as we are here fighting, the fight of our grandparents and the people before us had proven that the future is not something that is handed down to us. It is something that we actively shape. Creating a future where climate justice prevails means creating something entirely new. It means dreaming up solutions. It means imagining what is not there yet. There is no blueprint for a world that has yet to exist, but we all hold fragments of knowledge, skill, and determination to piece one together. There is a better world out there, but it can only be possible when we create it. Going back, I did not grow up wanting to become an activist, but as we can see, there is little else to do on a dying planet. The thick gray smog cannot be seen behind rose-colored glasses, but that does not mean it's not poisoning your lungs. The climate crisis has already stolen so many things from us, but nothing else will be left if we retreat from the battle. Clean air, water, and soil means that there is a planet to become who we have always wanted to be. A safe, livable space for watering the seeds of hope. A chance for all of us to witness its growth. The world may have taken so much already, but do not let go of your dreams. They do not have to be put on hold or set aside. This is exactly the moment where you have to gather your dreams, take them out of the corner, and dust them, because they will remind you to stand back up despite the scrapes on your knees. When you forget why you fight, they will remember. They will tell you that the only way is forward, and you will follow. So take that and bring your dreams with you to the better world that awaits. Thank you very much.